This is my first video in a while, a long time. Sitting here drinking root beer and whiskey, and I have nothing better to do with my life, so I figured I would just try to start branching out into things I haven't done in a while. New hobbies, old hobbies. Dog growling at me because he wants to play. While the other dog's up. Anyway, so I had a New Year's resolution. I don't normally do New Year's resolutions. I think they're bullshit. Where I decided that I was going to try to read one book per month. I knew that wasn't going to happen. I was somebody who gets very distracted easily, who tends to get a little bit lazy unless if there's something that I actually enjoy doing. So if I know that if the books feel like a chore, I would kind of stop. But I'm 3 books in. It's 5 months in, so better than I thought I would be. I'm about to start my 4th book. The first book I read is not this book. This is the book called Emotional Intelligence. I bought it at Barnes & Noble for, I think, $10. It was either $5 or $10. It's by a person named Gil Hassan. And part of the reason why I bought it is because I wanted a book that I knew would be easy to read, that wouldn't feel too much like a chore, that I knew I could kind of breeze through if I really wanted to. And I did. It was a very easy read. It was written probably at about a 9th grade level. Very easily understandable. I'm not saying that it's not saying that to damage the intelligence of the writer. It's just very easy to digest. They don't try to use overly complicated words. But anyway, book reviews. Here I go. So another part of the reason why I got this book is because, I've struggled with mental health for a long time. People don't do things like I do unless you have mental health issues. And it took a long time for me to think outside of it. And I heard a lot of good things about this book. I've even seen my mom read this book when I was a kid. But she no longer had a copy of it. I guess it got lost at some point when we moved when I was a kid. Or she was borrowing it from somebody. I didn't really read too deeply into it. But anyway, what did I think of the book? Well, I didn't really have any expectations of it. I was still somewhat disappointed. Maybe it's because this is meant for just an informative purpose. So the book was just kind of trying to teach you about emotions and how to recognize them and manage them. And I felt like a lot of what it was saying was very simple. A lot of the examples that it was giving were things like office related. A lot of it was tailored towards your work environment, which I didn't really like too much. And a lot of the examples that were given with things like anger or frustration or depression or sadness were very timid, and it felt very much like the person that wrote this could have easily used ChatGPT to write it, even though I'm pretty sure it wasn't. I think it was just somebody trying to act as though they weren't human when they were writing it. Like, it seems very much like I'm being spoken to by an alien who has never experienced human emotions but knows how to explain them. Kind of like somebody who's explaining my life experience while never having experienced my life. It doesn't really go too deeply into like major emotions, and when it gets to that point, it just tries to teach you to manage them a little bit better. And there are some valuable lessons in the book. I'm not saying that there's nothing to get out of it. There's a couple of things where I've read and I've reevaluated some situations that I was in where I was like, okay, maybe, this is where I can try to relate this lesson to it, particularly with the anger part, because I do struggle with some anger issues. But overall, like, there are points and parts of life that are very hard and frustrating, especially as somebody who works in law enforcement. And I feel like this book don't give this to a veteran. Don't give this to somebody who has experienced a very difficult job. Don't give this to somebody who's experienced some actual trauma. This is for a normal person who has had a relatively stable life, who has had, some stressful situations, but nothing too major. Maybe somebody who's just a little bit too immature for a normal situation is what I think this book is more tailored to, or maybe somebody who is dealing with normal things but is struggling to understand and comprehend and navigate their emotions. It's very weird because I feel like this book is written for children or young adults, but it's tailored, and the examples that it's given seems like it's written by an older adult, somebody who either doesn't fully understand what it's like to be young, or doesn't remember, or doesn't understand, how complicated and hormonal you are when you're younger. It seems a little out of touch. Like, it's almost like a manager wrote this for an employee. If that's the best example I can give. Overall, if you want something to read that is a little bit informative, that you can learn some things, you also there are some things to learn and some things to take away from it. But I think that if you stop for a second while you're reading and think about it for a couple of minutes, that you'll be able to kind of predict what the book is going to tell you to do. There's no real surprises, unless if you just have absolutely no emotional intelligence, in which case maybe you do need this book. I don't know. Maybe I'm more emotionally intelligent than I gave myself credit for, and none of what this book said was really surprising to me. But I was a little bit underwhelmed. I was hoping for more information, but then again, it was a very cheap book that I just wanted to waste time reading. And I'm not going to read it again. I don't regret reading it. I didn't hate the book. I just felt like it was a little bit, I wanted a little bit more out of it. But anyway, that's my review of Emotional Intelligence. This is Zonic Reviews Random Books, I guess.